Hello everybody, I am the QuietStorm, aka John F. Kimball, and welcome back to episode 2 of Reading My Stories. As I said, today we are starting off with a document that I titled Mean, and this story may take up the entirety of the video. I'm not entirely sure. I may be able to throw one little thing in besides it, so let's just go right in, shall we? Because this is what you're here for. The name of this story is Life Through a Poor Man's Eyes. Let me kill this white space because this thing is horribly spaced. Life Through a Poor Man's Eyes. This was written in 2008. This has not been touched since 2008. Let's get started. Joe Kester was raised rich and snooty, and sadly, that is how he behaves today. Good stereotypes. God. Joe thinks that being a poor man would be the worst thing in the world that could ever happen to him. Kenny Williams was born poor and lives poor. Now, Kenny would like to be a richer person, but is not too enthusiastic about it as you think a poor sap like Kenny would be. Wow. One day, Joe was in the grocery store buying food. Kenny was also shopping in the same store, buying his usual $10 worth of beans, rice, and crackers. That sounds like me this summer. Joe did not know that he would see a poor person that day. What, are they just rare? Is it like spotting an alien, or like, what? Kenny got in the checkout line in front of Joe. Joe saw the old, ragged-looking man in front of him. Joe paid no attention to Kenny because he could tell that Kenny was poor, and Joe, being rich, hated all poor people. Therefore, Joe decided to hate the poor man before ever getting to know him. I had a very, very skewered idea of rich people, apparently. Did not like rich people, because I was raised poor too. God, not this bad though. That night, as Joe was sleeping, he had a terrifying dream that would change his life forever. This dream begins with Kenny being a poor little boy living in a dilapidated old country house in Indiana about 65 years ago. How old is this poor guy? Dang. Kenny's mother had just walked home from the mercantile with 3 shopping bags, which had to last them all month long. Which is impossible unless those bags are like 30-gallon trash bags. It was also midwinter, so it was very, very cold. Kenny's younger brother, Jack, had been sick for the past 3 weeks. Jack had a bad case of the flu. The family could barely survive as it used to be, and had even more trouble since Jack became sick. The medical bills alone sucked up almost all of their father's paycheck, which already was low in number, which gave the mother no choice but to take up a night job, so during the day she could stay home with sick Jack. Apparently I didn't want to use periods in that sentence. The next thing in Joe's dream was about 3 years later when the Williams' family's home was taken. Little me. They were forced to live on the street in cardboard boxes, and while still having 2 jobs, they did not have enough money to build even the tiniest shack. This family was really going through some hard times back then. This terrified Joe so much that he had to get up and have some water. When he fell back to sleep, his terrifying but life-changing dream resumed. This time, it was 2 years later, when the Williams family had enough money saved to buy 6 bags of cement for a foundation, 20 2x4s, and 10 2x6s for framework and room separation. They also bought 100 pieces of tin for walls. Okay, little me, I'm going to stop you right there for a moment. 6 bags of concrete, like even if it's like an 80-pound bag, that's not gonna go far, like, at all. You do not get much square footage at 22 by 4s. Even if it's 2x4 by like 16, maybe you have a chance. But if it's as I think I meant it, which is like 2x4 by 8, bare minimum you need is 5 to make like a horrible, horrible little tiny wibble wobbly shack 8-foot square piece, and you would be living in an 8-foot cube. What would the 2x6s do for framework and room separation? Fool, I had no idea what I was talking about, obviously. Who knows, maybe it's just how dumb Joe is in his dream. The Williamses started their hard project and finished 2 weeks later. Then they bought cots and blankets for a sleeping area. They bought kerosene lanterns and bricks for a fireplace for extra warmth throughout the winter months. Then Joe's dream took another fast forward to when Kenny had to move out and live on his own without the comfort and warmth of his parents' home. Kenny decided to move on with his sack of books, water, and beans to Rhode Island where he planned to live, but later had to move to Maine because of financial troubles. Alright then. Kenny found a cheap little trailer that he could afford after being in Rhode Island and having a job for 3 weeks. Kenny got on a payment plan for his trailer in which he paid $30 a month for 2 years. Not long after his home purchase, the company he worked for went bankrupt. He lost his trailer 1 month later when he could not pay his bill. Kenny then went to Indiana because prices were low and payments were cheap. Is that real? I have no idea. In Indiana, Kenny could not find the home he wanted. Instead, he bought lumber and paneling to build his own home, as his parents did many years ago. Kenny finished 10 months later. He then decided to find a wife to help him through his very hard and hopefully made better life. Alright. Kenny found a homeless woman walking down the street 5 days later. They then got married after a period of 6 months. The two decided to just have a calm, easy life together and without any children. Joe's dream went fast forward again to 3 years later when something horrible was going to happen. This scene in Kenny's life started when his wife got tired of working at work and at home for Kenny while he was at work. Kenny's wife left him. Kenny began to struggle with bill paying. Kenny struggled so much that he had no choice but to take up a second job. He was now working day and night, sometimes up to 20 hours a day. These frustrating and even at some points scary happenings made Joe so scared that he woke up screaming! Exclamation point. Yay. Joe sat down and watched some television in hope that those terrifying things would be erased from his memory. While watching television, Joe fell asleep. His dream continued. Where were we? Oh, Kenny's wife left him and he took up a second job. Kenny found work at a local car company. His job was to test drive the used cars that the lot received. This new job was paying Kenny so well that he was able to quit his other job and begin working full-time at the car company. When Kenny was not test driving the used cars, he also safety inspected them. With the test driving and safety inspecting, Kenny was being paid enough money that after a short period of time, he was able to buy one of the lot's best pickups, a 1964 Ford F-100. I would like that truck, like right now. Gimme. Kenny had just test driven and inspected the very day before. This way, Kenny knew he was receiving a great deal. About 1 year later, Kenny had saved enough spare work money to build a very nice house. Kenny was getting along just fine. This dream took another fast forward to 5 years later when Kenny's inspection job was replaced with a young man with college experience as a safety inspector. Kenny was now only being paid half of what he had been getting. This made Kenny go into debt when he was unable to pay for his house and car insurance. Kenny's two choices were to either give up the large, lovely home he built with his own savings or to give up his little pickup. Kenny was smart enough to know that he needed a home to sleep and keep warm in. Kenny sold his little Ford pickup in order to pay for and keep his house. Kenny was desperate because he would not have a pickup to sell for insurance money every year. Sometimes I make sense, sometimes I don't. That just seems confusing. An excellent idea popped into Kenny's head. He could rent out some of the large rooms in his huge house like a hotel to receive rent money. I just had to scream that. It was the perfect idea. Kenny has an 80-bedroom, 45-bathroom mansion. He wouldn't miss a few dumb old rooms as long as payment was attached. Kenny thought up a rent payment plan that was affordable to the average man. $5 for nighttime hours and $10 for daytime hours. That's not how rent works, bro. Kenny's idea was a big success. Why, after a few months, Kenny had enough rent money, aside from house payments and new rent room appliances, to buy a used car from the auto salvage, fix it up, and begin driving to work again because his feet were starting to get sore after having to walk 10 miles to work every day for 2.5 months, and then having to walk 10 miles back home. How do you walk like 7 hours a day? This dream went fast forward again to just 2 years ago, when Kenny had quit from his car lot job and found a job that he would have to stick with. It was a job as an insurance collector. In order for him to get the job, Kenny needed collateral. What he put on his collateral made no sense. He put his big house that was keeping him off the streets was his collateral. I could not grammar. That means that if Kenny loses track of more than 5 major insurance deals, that the insurance people could take his house. Sadly, Kenny's first 5 insurance collections were from mansions that each paid about $250,000 each. This was a windy day. Kenny had just received his last insurance payment when the winds picked up. The wind began to blow the insurance collections away. Kenny lost all of the collections to the wind and his house to the insurance men. Kenny was now living on the streets. The dream went fast forward again to the shopping mall, where Kenny was in front of Joe. You're probably wondering where poor old Kenny got his money to buy food with. He did little tricks with acorn shells and the ring from his first marriage. When a person guessed the wrong shell, Kenny would get the person's wager. Joe then woke up. It was morning. Joe got dressed and ran to the streets to find Kenny. Kenny was doing his little tricks on Jade Boulevard. I remember I was so proud of myself because I spelled boulevard right the first time. I just wanted to add that in. Joe walked toward Kenny and said, "Here," as he handed Kenny a big clump of $100 bills. "Start a new life." Kenny asked, "Who are you?" Joe replied with pride and dignity, "I'm just someone who cares." Kenny said, "Thank you very much. I'm Joe," said Joe. "Joe, thank you for your great deed," Joe stated again. "I'm just someone who cares. Just someone who cares." The end. Very impulsive decision made simply because of a dream. I've done that before. Holy crap. I read partly through this before, but I didn't read all the way through it in like years. Maybe 2010 was the last time. But it's nice to go back over this and see that, I believe that bad people could be good, I guess. I don't know. Or that you should try and help poor folks have a better life if they're like homeless or something. I don't know. I'm trying to read too far into just a dumb little story that I wrote when I was little. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's do one more short little thing, and then I should be able to edit this down into a decent video. We shall look into MPA Series 1 that was last touched in 2009. January 2009. Marina, Papa, and Arabelle, the first one. Written and illustrated by John F. Kimball. One cold December night in the year 2000, December 25th to be exact, a proud mother and father peered over a hospital crib to see their newborn baby girl that the couple named Arabella Janicelle Menz, or Arabelle Janice. Cool. 2 other girls named Cora, 15, and Mary Alice, 12, came to see their new little sister. Cora said with joy, "She is so precious." Mary Alice came closer and said, "Hey there, little Arabelle. Welcome to the planet Earth. I'm your big sister, Mary Alice, and this is your bigger sister, Cora. Merry Christmas, girls, said Papa. Your present was Arabelle. On December 26th, they got to take Arabelle home. When Arabelle got in the big mansion of a house, she exclaimed, "Goo!" That is all. I tried to, start writing backstories to things that I had. This was, the part of the backstory to Marina, Papa, and Arabelle. Never went very much farther with it. Kind of wonder what it could have been if I'd kept going with it. But anyways, everyone, I believe I'm going to have to end this episode here, as it has already gone on long enough, and it'll probably be at least 15 minutes once I edit it down, which is more than enough for a video on my channel, because audience retention is, low. Y'all are like a bunch of goldfish. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like. If you want to see more of these videos, hit that subscribe button so you'll always be able to see when I've uploaded a new video. And thank you all so much for watching. This is John F. Kimball, signing off.